Over the past few years, the speed of information and the way we consume it has changed dramatically. News can pivot in the space of 140 characters. Announcements can be made in a text message. Any question can be answered at the hit of an enter button. Strawberries from Argentina and televisions from China can be ordered from a global marketplace and delivered to your door the very next day. Music, film, and television have been laid out on an all-you-can-eat buffet of content, competing with a platform of 1 million creators uploading everything from a little boy's trip to the dentist, a musical act from another side of the world, or a video game analysis video narrated in an indiscernible accent. Even language and information sharing has become faster and more universal, replaced by semiotic smiley faces and captured images and in-jokes that are remixed and transformed on a rapid basis. Almost every aspect of pop culture has been affected by this move to hypercharged consumerism, and in video games, no character or franchise better represents the zeitgeist than a greedy and vulgar gold digger and his rapid-fire collection of microgames. The WarioWare series is a supercharged thesis on game design, packaged as an arcade game made of smaller arcade games, and most surprisingly of all, saw release 14 years ago. Developed by Nintendo in 2003, came at a time where the video game medium had matured from the early days of simple inputs and concepts, and had moved into cinematic spectacle and everything in the kitchen sink design. Much before the boom of indie titles and the distribution platforms of the late 2000s. A game by a company at its most confident, taking up to 30 years of game design and distilling it down to its essence. WarioWare is perhaps the best game about games ever produced, and in later years feels eerily clairvoyant in the wake of the multi-million-dollar app industry, short-form content production, and even the nature of communication in the late 2010s. I'm GAMESD, and I'm going to explain why WarioWare works. Pitch a game. Who's the target audience? What's the target platform? What's the genre? Does it fit into a genre? Do you shoot people? Should you shoot people? What does the A button do? What does the A button do when you hold it? Who's the main character? What's their backstory? How do they change over the course of the game? What lessons are learned? When's the release date? How long will it take to play? How much will it cost? What's the competition? Package it, bug test it, ship it, discount it, move on to the next big thing. Games come in all shapes and sizes, but as our appetite grows year on year, development has started to fracture down the middle. Studios balloon to deliver the most engrossing simulations, while indie developers thrive and multiply on wallet-friendly and accessible titles. Yet, despite the differences in budget, they can all be boiled down to similar trends. Strip a game of its lofty ambitions, throw plot twists and exposition out the window, dial graphics back to their most rudimentary, and simplify your inputs until only single contextual commands remain. At this point, all games are about a setup, interface, and win state. The most basic language that can be communicated to players, and one that anyone who has ever engaged with basic games can understand. Early games revel in this simplicity, but distinguish from each other by the context of their commands. You might be collecting pellets while avoiding enemies, destroying targets while avoiding return fire, or scaling a tower while avoiding moving obstacles. As games matured, they became mechanically and aesthetically more sophisticated, culminating in titles that may combine all these interfaces into a single title. However, it's this simple approach to interface design that WarioWare builds its microgames around, where a game is presented to the player, letting them get up to speed on the context of the title, gives them a window to familiarise to the controls and the result of their actions, achieve a win state, or cause a fail state, and then take it away from them and replace it with a brand new game, all within the space of 3.5 seconds, set to a constant 140 BPM tempo that gets faster the better you play it. An incredibly simple, yet utterly effective design, and one that allows the developers to build hundreds of games, and even allow their programmers to have artistic license over their titles, making them microgame designers in their very own right, and giving the title a rich variety of styles that adds to the madcap nature of the game. The title even taps into the viral phenomenon of memes, a term that has been misconstructed over the past few years, but is defined as a unit for carrying cultural ideas, symbols, or practices that can be transmitted from one mind to another through a mimic theme. Seeing a car coming towards you, a dog's paw to shake, or a rocket ship in flight, with a loud verb before every introduction, initiates a certain response in players, one the game taps into when designing its controls. It's why some games can bring in the D-pad without prompting the player to use it. It just makes sense in what information the microgame is showing players. WarioWare feels like a game that could have been made at the invention of video games. And while minigame collections have been a staple of games ever since the Super Nintendo, you have to wonder where a game like this came from. The title finds its origins in Sound Bomber, a single mode of the Japanese-only Mario artist Polygon Studio for the Japan-only 64DD disc drive. Even at this early stage, it resembles many aspects of what would become the future title, from its focus on simple context and inputs, as well as having everything synced up to an 8-beat rhythm. Spurred by the creative opportunity of the title, the developers went ahead to work on it in secret. All they needed was protagonists to tie the game together, and there was no character who represented the anarchic spirit better than Wario. Wario has been a guinea pig for Nintendo to play with their formula for platform games ever since its inception in Super Mario Land 2 for the Game Boy, serving as the final antagonist of the title, and the protagonist of the follow-up title. From its second game onward, Nintendo experimented with the concept of removing death states from the equation, and instead made damage a part of the design. In the third, non-linear progression became a part of the formula, and in 4, perhaps the GBA's finest platforming game, the return to a more linear focused level design and damage states made inertia, player mastery and one-time gimmicks a part of the design. As stated by the developers, having Wario as a games designer provided the perfect context for this microgame driven title, due to being really idiotic and always doing stupid things. A perfect fit for the oftentimes strange and abstract design of the games. With a cast of other characters to help package the series of microgames into a set, theme around stock photo-based graphics, sport themes, or even styled after early Nintendo titles, WarioWare manages to create a confident but curious identity and provide groundwork for new titles going forward. Later titles would see the game shift more towards showcasing the new control method of Nintendo's later consoles, and even saw itself repurposed as a party game for the Nintendo GameCube, leveraging the microgame designed around a tournament structure. A spin-off title, Rhythm Heaven, even lent into the more tempo-driven system of the WarioWare games, creating a title about matching the beat through obtuse interfaces, reminiscent of the previous game's strange microgames. It's hard to say what direct effect the title had on games after its release. A moderate success on the GBA, the title saw no imitators from any other console manufacturers. Still, the rapid-fire nature and ludic language of the game feels far more current today than ever. Perhaps due to the sheer volume of microgames, some of the most popular mobile titles feel like they took ideas wholesale from the game, while expanding them out into feature-rich titles. Still, its achievement as a title can't be diminished. WarioWare is a game that almost makes all others feel redundant, due to the sheer breadth of its content, like even entire genres can be reduced down to their fundamentals, and served to the player as an appetizer. With the standardisation of controls, and almost every mechanical idea felt like it's been done, it's a challenge to think of any other game that could follow in the footsteps of the title. However, there's plenty for would-be designers to learn from WarioWare, and use it for the test case that no idea is too small, too simple, or too strange to build a game around. Hello! Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you to KAZM for the backing tracks that you can see in the description below. If you want to support the channel or receive notifications of new videos, remember to press the subscribe button. If you want updates on future videos or want to know a bit more about me, follow me on Twitter. And if you'd like to leave any feedback, please leave a comment below. I try and respond to anything you post. And that's all for now. Talk to you soon.